The city slept under a ceiling of light and steel. For 300 years, no one had seen the real sky. Above the dome, storms raged forever, lightning crawling like veins across the black clouds. Inside, people lived in order and fear. The dome was safety, the dome was law, and no one was allowed to question it. Commander Reid stood at the edge of the observation deck, staring up at the glowing barrier. It looked peaceful from here, a soft blue shimmer that hid the dead world beyond. But tonight it didn't feel peaceful. It felt alive. "Sir," said Lieutenant Mara, stepping beside him. The outer senses picked up something, a pulse. Repeating every few minutes, Reid turned to her. "From the storm?" "Yes, sir. Not natural. It's structured, like a signal." The word signal hit him like a shock. Nothing was supposed to exist beyond the dome. Every book, every history lesson said the same thing. The surface was poisoned, empty and silent. But the instruments said otherwise. "Show me," Reid said. Mara tapped her wrist console, and a soft hologram appeared. A wave pattern pulsed slowly like a heartbeat. Then it repeated again. "It started 2 hours ago," she said. "The frequency is low, but—" "Sir, it's too precise to be random." Reid's mind raced. He had seen old records, classified ones, that spoke of transmissions before the dome was sealed. Some came from human survivors trapped outside, others from machines that kept running long after the wars ended. But none lasted this long. Has the Council been informed? He asked. Mara hesitated. "They ordered a blackout, sir. No public alerts. They said it's just an equipment fault. Of course they did." The Council feared panic more than death. Reid clenched his jaw and looked up again. The dome flickered faintly as lightning struck somewhere far above. For a second, he thought he saw a dark shape move behind the clouds, but it was gone too quickly. "Send a probe," Reid said quietly. Mara's eyes widened. "Sir, that's against protocol. No device can leave the dome without clearance." "Then don't log it," Reid replied. "Do it quietly," she nodded. "Yes, Commander." Hours later, in the lower hangar, the small launch bay came alive. A single drone rested on its pad, its black surface shining under white lights. It was built for short-range scans, not for crossing the storm barrier, but it was all they had. Reid watched as Mara programmed the coordinates. "If it gets through the field, we'll have less than a minute of contact before interference cuts us off," she said. "That's enough," he replied. The drone's thrusters hummed, and the bay doors opened. Cold air swept in. Beyond the shimmering dome wall lay darkness and thunder. "Launch," Reid ordered. The drone shot upward like a spark, vanishing through the barrier. The monitors flickered, static filling the screens, then cleared to show flashes of clouds, rain, and lightning. The drone spun as the winds hit it hard, but its stabilizers held. Then, through the storm, the camera caught something, tall, sharp shapes on the horizon, glowing faintly red. "Towers, maybe. Or machines." "What is that?" Mara whispered. Before Reid could answer, the feed went white. "The screen died, signal lost," she said. "It's gone." Reid stared at the blank monitor. "Record the last image." "Enhance it." Mara replayed the final frame. Through the static, the shape became clearer. It wasn't a building. It was a structure made of metal and bone-like supports. Lights moved around it like eyes watching the sky, and below the image, the system displayed strange data. Transmission detected. Source, unknown human pattern. "Human pattern?" Mara said, shocked. "That's impossible. No one survived out there." Reid didn't answer. His chest tightened. He looked up again, toward the ceiling of light that protected them. The thought struck him like a blade. If someone was sending signals, it meant they were alive. And if they were alive, they wanted something. "Seal the bay," he ordered. "Delete all drone logs except one copy. Encrypt it under my command code." Mara nodded, still shaken. "Sir, do you think they know we're here?" Reid's voice dropped. "If they can send a signal through the storm, they already do." That night, the city continued to sleep, unaware that something outside had called their name. In the quiet streets, automated patrols moved like ghosts, lights blinking in rhythm. Somewhere deep underground, machines hummed, maintaining the dome's power grid. Reid returned to his quarters, replaying the sound in his head. the slow, steady pulse. It wasn't random. It was too clean, too human. Each interval matched the pattern of old military distress beacons. He opened the data again on his personal console. The waveform blinked, and hidden beneath it, he noticed something new, a sequence of tones that formed a message. It said, "We remember." Reid froze. His heartbeat echoed the same rhythm. He looked once more at the shining ceiling that had protected them for generations. The dome had always been their shield, their safety. But now, for the first time, it felt like a cage, and outside that cage, something waited, something human, something coming. The Dome Council met in silence. 12 figures sat around a round table of glass, their faces half hidden in shadow. On the screens behind them, the image of the broken drone glowed faintly, frozen in its last moment before the feed died. Councillor Voss leaned forward. "Commander Reid, your unauthorized launch violated security protocols." "Explain yourself." Reid stood tall. "With respect, sir, the probe was necessary. We detected a repeating signal. It wasn't random. It matched an old human distress code." The room went still. A few councillors exchanged uneasy looks. Voss narrowed his eyes. "You're suggesting survivors exist outside the dome?" "I'm saying someone is transmitting from beyond the storm," Reid replied. "The data doesn't lie." Councillor Isha spoke softly. "Even if that were true, the world beyond is dead. No one could live there." Reid tapped the console on the table. The final image from the drone appeared. Those red glowing towers piercing through the black clouds. "Then explain this," he said. The council members stared, speechless. The towers looked mechanical, almost alive. After a long pause, Voss said coldly, "The council will handle this. You are ordered to destroy all probe data. Public knowledge of this event is forbidden." Reid's voice hardened. "Hiding the truth will not protect us." "Commander, you will obey," Voss replied sharply. The guards stepped closer, but Reid did not move. He simply saluted and walked out, his face calm, but his thoughts burning. Outside the chamber, Lieutenant Mara waited. "What did they say?" "They're blind," Reid muttered. "They want silence. Should we stop?" "No, we go deeper. The signal didn't just come once. It's still repeating. We need to find the source." Mara followed as they descended to the lower data vaults. The hum of machines echoed through the hall. Rows of ancient servers flickered with green lights. Many had been sealed since the dome was first built. Reid unlocked a restricted console and connected the drone's black box. The audio file played again, the rhythmic pulse, steady and slow. Mara listened closely. "That's not a distress call anymore." "It's changing," Reid nodded. The pulse had shifted pitch, almost like it was responding. "It's learning," he whispered. "It knows we heard it." Suddenly the console lights flashed red. The dome's central AI system activated automatically. A metallic voice filled the vault. "Unauthorized access detected. Data quarantine in progress." "Damn it," Reid said, pulling the power cable. The lights went out, plunging them into darkness. When the backup lights flickered on, the waveform was gone. "Erased. All files deleted," Mara said. "The system wiped everything," Reid frowned. "No, it didn't. Look." He opened a hidden directory. Inside, a single corrupted file remained. He decrypted it manually, and an image appeared, fuzzy but clear enough to see faces. Human faces, scarred and pale, staring into the camera. One of them raised a hand and spoke. The audio was distorted, but one word cut through the static clearly. "Revenge." Mara gasped. "They're not calling for help. They're coming for us." Reid's chest felt heavy. The world outside hadn't died, it had changed, and now it was awake. Later that night, storms roared above the dome. Lightning struck the barrier, sending blue light racing across its surface. In the lower quarters, power lights flickered. Civilians whispered rumors. Some said they heard voices in the thunder, others claimed they saw shadows moving beyond the glass. In the command center, Reid watched the live feed from the perimeter cameras. Through the rain, faint shapes moved along the storm's edge. Mara pointed at one of the screens. "There, did you see that?" The image zoomed in. For a second, a tall, dark figure stood against the lightning flash, armor gleaming faintly red. Then it vanished. "They're testing the dome," Reid said quietly. "They're studying us." A sharp alarm blared. One of the outer sensor towers had gone offline. Another followed. Then another. "Sabotage?" Mara asked. Reid's eyes narrowed. "No, they're cutting our eyes." He ordered a recon team to check the outer perimeter. 5 soldiers left in armored suits. Their voices came through the comms, static-filled, nervous, visibility 0. Heavy interference. "Wait, movement ahead." A scream broke through, then silence. Reid gripped the console. "Team Alpha, respond." Nothing. Only static. Then through the noise, a faint whisper came. "They're human!" The signal died completely. Hours later, a recovery drone brought back one of the soldiers' helmets. Its camera feed replayed their final moments. The team had reached the base of a sensor tower. In the lightning flash, human shapes surrounded them, men and women in scavenged armor, faces marked by radiation burns, eyes glowing with rage. They weren't aliens. They were human, and one of them had spoken before the attack, his voice cold and broken. "You left us behind." Reid turned off the recording, his hands shaking. The dome was not only a shield, it was a wall built to hide guilt. The people outside had survived without its light, and now they were ready to make the dome remember what it had done. Reid looked at Mara. "We have to prepare. The war we ended centuries ago is coming back." Mara nodded slowly. "Then we fight." Reid's eyes lifted to the ceiling of light. The thunder outside felt closer now, almost like it was pounding on the dome. The storm was no longer just weather. It was a warning, and the signal, it had become a countdown. The morning lights of the dome flickered weakly. People walked through the streets, unaware that soldiers had died in the night. The council announced it was only a power failure. But Commander Reid knew better. He stood on the balcony of the command tower, watching the storm roll across the barrier. Every flash of lightning looked like a warning written in fire. Lieutenant Mara joined him, carrying a datapad. "Sir, I checked the archives like you asked." "You need to see this." Reid took the pad. It showed an old file marked Classified Dome War Project. He opened it and old videos began to play, grainy, black and white. Soldiers, engineers and scientists stood before giant machines. There were hundreds of people outside the dome, men, women and children, wearing old military uniforms. Mara spoke quietly. "These are from before the dome was sealed. They were part of the Surface Defense Division." Reid watched, confused. "Why were they left outside?" "The file says they volunteered to protect the construction sites while the dome shield charged," Mara said. "But the final entry is different." Reid scrolled to the last video. A man appeared, General Harlan, the dome's first commander. His voice cracked as he spoke. "The shield is rising sooner than planned. Communication lines are broken. The outer division is trapped. If we delay, the radiation storms will breach the city. We are forced to seal the dome now. May God forgive us." The screen went black. Reid lowered the pad slowly. "They abandoned them," he whispered. "Those soldiers were never rescued," Mara nodded. "And their descendants are the ones outside now. They survived somehow. For centuries." Reid clenched his fists. "No wonder they hate us. We left them to die." The truth burned through him like fire. Everything the Council had taught them about the empty world, about humanity's extinction outside, was a lie. Hours later, Reid entered the council chamber again, slamming the pad onto the table. "You lied," he said. Councillor Voss didn't look surprised. "You found the records, then?" "You knew about them," Reid growled. "You knew we left our own people to rot out there." Voss sighed. "The dome was humanity's only chance. We had to make choices. The ones outside were soldiers. They understood the risk." Reid's voice rose. "And now they're coming for us. You didn't save humanity, you divided it." Councillor Isha spoke calmly. "Commander, if the Outlanders want war, we will respond. The dome will hold." "It always has," Reid shook his head. "You don't understand. They have our knowledge, our technology. That structure the drone saw, it was built using old human designs. They're not savages. They've evolved, Voss stood. Enough. You are relieved of command, effective immediately. 2 guards stepped forward, but Mara rushed in. Sir, you can't do this. He's the only one preparing for what's coming. Take them both to the lower sector for reassignment, Voss ordered coldly. Reid looked at Mara. Let them try. Later that night, the guards escorted them through the narrow tunnels beneath the council tower. But before they reached the lower sector, an explosion rocked the building. Alarms screamed through the dome. The lights went red. What was that? One guard shouted. Reid moved fast, striking him in the chest and grabbing his weapon. The second guard turned, but Mara hit the door controls, sealing the corridor behind them. They ran toward the command center. The city was chaos, smoke rising, civilians running. Through the transparent ceiling, flashes of fire streaked across the sky. Something was hitting the dome. At the command deck, screens showed multiple impact points along the northern barrier. Small metallic objects, drones, hundreds of them, slammed against the shield, each carrying small bursts of electromagnetic charge. The Outlanders are testing the dome, Mara said. They're mapping its weak points. Reid took the comms. All defense units prepare for perimeter lockdown. No one leaves the inner city. The soldiers obeyed without question, even without council orders. They trusted Reid more than the politicians. Then a new transmission broke through the noise, an open channel from outside the dome. The voice that came through was deep and familiar. Dome Command, this is General Kade of the Surface Legion. We are the descendants of the soldiers your ancestors betrayed. We survived your storms, your poison, your silence. Now we have come home. Reid froze. The name Kade echoed in his mind. It was the surname of his own bloodline. Mara! Replay that voice, she did. The tone, the cadence, it was almost identical to his own. Reid whispered, It's my brother's blood. His family, Mara stared. Your ancestor was part of the dome builders. That means his line stayed outside. Reid nodded slowly. We share the same origin. 2 sides of the same war. The transmission continued. You built a cage for yourselves. We built freedom from your ashes. Open your dome, or we'll open it for you. Static filled the room as the message ended. Reid looked up at the ceiling where lightning danced above the barrier. They're not outsiders anymore. They're the other half of us, Mara asked softly. What do we do now? Reid's voice was calm but firm. We prepare the people for truth. The council can hide no longer. If we don't unite, we'll lose everything. Outside, the storm grew louder. The red lights from the horizon glowed brighter, moving closer. The forgotten army was coming home. The sky above the dome burned with constant lightning. The storm had grown violent, brighter, and closer than ever before. Every strike made the air hum. People looked up in fear, feeling that something was wrong. The calm days of the dome were over. Commander Reid stood in the control center surrounded by screens full of red warnings. Power fluctuations, shield pressure drops, outer grid damage. The Outlanders were not just testing the dome anymore. They were breaking it piece by piece. Lieutenant Mara worked beside him, her voice tense. They hit the north and west sectors again. Each blast weakens the shield by a fraction. They know exactly where to strike. Reid nodded. They've studied our technology for generations. They know our defenses better than we do. A holographic map flickered in front of them. The dome looked like a giant web of energy lines. Several sections blinked red, meaning they were near failure. Sir, we can't keep hiding this from the people, Mara said. If the dome falls, they won't be ready. Reid looked out the window. Down below, life went on. Children played near the lights, markets buzzed, and workers followed their daily schedules, all under the illusion of safety. The council wants peace through lies, he said. But peace built on silence is already dead. The heavy metal doors of the council chamber opened, and Reid entered, carrying the data pad with the latest damage report. The councillors were arguing when he arrived. Commander Reid, Councillor Voss said sharply. We didn't summon you. I don't need an invitation when the dome is breaking apart, Reid replied, throwing the pad onto the table. Look at this. The northern grid will collapse within 12 hours. Councillor Isha scanned the data. Can we reinforce it? Not without the core engine, Reid said. It's the only power strong enough to recharge the dome field. Voss frowned. The core engine is forbidden. It's unstable. It could destroy everything. Reid stepped closer. If we do nothing, the Outlanders will destroy us anyway. They're already through half our outer sensors. The shield is cracking. The room went silent. Outside, a thunderclap shook the walls as if to prove him right. Finally, Aisha spoke. If we use the core engine, we need to reach the old tunnels. They're sealed, Reid nodded. Then I'll lead a team down there. We don't have time to debate. Voss slammed his hand on the table. You have no authority to act. Reid's voice turned cold. Authority means nothing when survival is at stake. He turned and left the chamber without waiting for permission. That night, the lights across the city dimmed again. Rumors spread fast, whispers of cracks forming in the dome, of red lights seen beyond the clouds. Reid and Mara led a small squad through the maintenance tunnels beneath the city. The air was damp and cold. The walls hummed faintly from the dome's power lines. These tunnels haven't been opened in 100 years, Mara said quietly. They were built as escape routes, Reid replied. But they go deeper than anyone remembers. They followed the tunnel until it opened into a wide underground chamber. Old machines stood like silent giants covered in dust. In the center was a massive metal sphere surrounded by broken cables, the core engine. Reid approached it slowly. The air around it felt heavy. This is the heart of our power, he said. It can either save us or end us. Mara examined the console. Most of it still works, but we'll need the activation codes. Only the Council has them, Reid thought for a moment. Then we'll take them. Before they could move, the ground shook violently. The walls trembled as a low, booming sound echoed from above. Dust rained from the ceiling. Shield impact, Mara said. That one hit hard. Reid opened his comlink. Command, report! A panicked voice answered. This is Lieutenant Brooks. The northern dome layer just fractured. Repeat, fractured. We're losing containment. Reid's heart sank. Evacuate all civilians to the inner sector. Do it now! Static filled the line. Then another voice came through. It wasn't Brooks. It was rough, distorted, and familiar. Running won't save you, brother. Reid froze. It was General Kade, leader of the Outlanders. His tone was calm, almost sad. You built this cage to hide from the world, Kade said. But the world never forgot. You sealed us out and left us to the storms. Now we've come to open your sky. The message ended with silence. Mara looked at Reid. He's talking directly to you. Reid nodded slowly. He knows I'm listening. Above them, the dome flickered. People screamed as cracks of light appeared overhead. The protective shimmer pulsed like a heartbeat under strain. The storm outside pressed harder. From the observation deck, Reid could see thin lines spreading across the blue barrier. They glowed brighter with every second. The dome is bleeding, Mara whispered. Suddenly, a huge explosion tore through the northern sector. The dome flared white, then dimmed. A hole had opened, a wound in the sky. For the first time in centuries, real rain fell through the gap. Cold, heavy drops hit the streets. People stared in shock, some crying, others running in fear. Through the broken sky, dark figures descended, armored soldiers with red lights on their suits. The Outlanders had breached the dome. Reid gripped his weapon. So it begins. Mara looked at him. What do? We fight, Reid said, but not just for survival, for truth. For both sides of humanity. Outside, thunder rolled like drums of war. The dome, once the symbol of safety, now became the battlefield of history. The cracks widened, and the storm poured in. Humanity's cage had finally broken. Rain poured through the shattered dome for the first time in 3 centuries. The city that had lived in light now trembled in darkness. Sirens howled through the streets as defense drones rose into the air, forming bright shields around the remaining sectors. Commander Reid ran through the flooded corridors of the command center. His uniform was soaked, his mind racing. The Outlanders had entered the dome. Humanity was now fighting itself. Lieutenant Mara followed close behind. The northern line has fallen, sir. Outlanders are moving through the market district. We're losing control. Reid stopped, breathing hard. Pull everyone back to the inner ring. We can't hold the walls anymore. What about the civilians? She asked. They go below, he said. To the tunnels. We're activating the core engine. Mara froze. Sir, the core engine is unstable. If it fails, Reid looked at her firmly. If it fails, at least we tried. If we do nothing, the dome dies tonight. They reached the lower chamber where the core engine waited, silent and cold. The massive sphere stood in the center, surrounded by steel pylons that pulsed faintly with energy. The old machines around it were alive again, buzzing with forgotten power. Reid approached the control console. The codes, he said. You got them? Mara pulled a small data chip from her pocket. I took them from the council archives before we left. Good, he said. Let's bring the heart of the dome back to life. She inserted the chip. The console lit up with ancient symbols. A deep hum filled the air. The core engine began to glow from within, blue light spreading across its surface like veins awakening. A robotic voice spoke from the speakers. Core engine initializing. Warning, containment unstable. Proceed? Reid didn't hesitate. Proceed. The ground shook as the core came alive. Energy streams flowed through the floor, feeding into the dome's broken grid. Above, faint blue lines began to reform across the cracked sky. Mara watched the readings. Power levels rising fast. Too fast. Keep it steady, Reid ordered. Sir, it's overloading. Reid gritted his teeth. We can't stop now. The lights flickered. The core pulsed like a beating heart. For a moment it seemed to stabilize. Then a shock wave burst from the center, knocking them both to the ground. When the smoke cleared, the core was still glowing. But a new sound echoed through the chamber, a voice distorted but human. Who activates? The heart? Mara looked around. Did you hear that? Reid stood slowly. It's not the system. That voice is human. The lights shifted. A hologram flickered above the core, a figure wearing an old military uniform, face half hidden. It was a digital recording, centuries old. I am Captain Arden of the Dome Defense Project, the hologram said. If you are hearing this, the dome has failed. The core engine was built using alien technology found in the early wars. It can rebuild the world or erase it. Choose wisely. Reid and Mara stood frozen. The truth hit them hard. The dome was not just human creation. It was powered by something not of this earth. Reid whispered, we were never just protecting ourselves from the world. We were protecting the world from what we built. The chamber shook again. Alarms blared. Mara checked the sensors. Outlanders have breached the lower sectors. They're coming here! Reid grabbed his weapon. Then this is where we make our stand. Moments later the doors burst open. A group of armored Outlanders entered, their red lights cutting through the mist. At their front stood General Kade. He removed his helmet, revealing a scarred face that looked hauntingly like Reid's. Brother, Kade said quietly, you've kept yourself busy. Reid aimed his weapon. You don't have to do this, Kade stepped forward. You think we want destruction. We want freedom. We want to end the prison your ancestors built. You call it a prison, Reid replied, but it kept our people alive. Kade's voice hardened. At what cost? You left us in the dark. You watched us die and did nothing. The dome is your guilt made of glass. Reid lowered his weapon slightly. Maybe you're right, but destroying what's left of humanity won't fix the past. Kade looked at the glowing core. That machine holds the power to change everything. We can use it to open the world, to burn away the storm. It could destroy the world too, Reid warned. It's alien. It's dangerous. Then maybe danger is the only way forward, Kade said. The brothers stared at each other, both torn between truth and duty. Mara's voice broke the silence. So the core is reaching critical levels. It's going to blow if we don't stabilize it now. Reid turned back to the console. I can balance it manually. Kade stepped closer. No, let me. I understand power. I've lived in the storm. You've only hidden from it. Touch it and we all die, Reid warned. Kade smiled faintly. Then let's see which of us was truly meant to survive. He lunged toward the core, but Mara fired, hitting the ground near his feet. Stop, both of you! This isn't about revenge, it's about survival. For a moment, everything went still except the deep hum of the core. Reid looked at Kade, his voice quiet but steady. You said you wanted to open the sky. Maybe we can... Together, Kade hesitated. The hatred in his eyes flickered, replaced by something else. Doubt. Then another explosion rocked the chamber. The roof cracked, sending dust raining down. The core's light turned blinding white. Reid shouted, "Mara, get clear!" Kade grabbed the edge of the console. "We're out of time!" The core released a surge of energy that swallowed the entire chamber in blue light. When the light faded, the storm outside had changed. The sky glowed faintly blue instead of black. The dome's cracks were still open, but the radiation had stopped. The world outside was no longer killing. Reid woke up beside the quiet core. Mara was alive. Kade stood a few feet away, wounded but breathing. They had done it. The core had changed the storm, but the war was far from over. Smoke rose from the shattered city. The dome no longer glowed as before, its once perfect light now dim and broken. For the first time, the people inside could see the real sky, a pale grey canvas, cold but alive. The storm was gone, but the war had only changed its shape. Commander Reid stood on a ruined balcony, looking over the remains of Sector 5. The rain fell in soft waves, washing blood and ash from the streets. Behind him, Lieutenant Mara limped toward him, her arm wrapped in a torn cloth. "It's quiet now," she said. "Too quiet?" Reid nodded slowly. "The Outlanders pulled back, but it's not peace. They're regrouping." She looked up at the open sky. "We should be celebrating. The radiation's gone. We can breathe the air again." Reid's eyes darkened. "Yes, but for how long?" Far below, in the tunnels beneath the dome, Kade watched his soldiers repair their weapons. His armor was cracked, his face covered with scars from the core explosion. The Outlanders looked at him like a savior, but he felt no pride. The war had changed him. The dome had changed him. A young soldier approached. "General, our scouts report that the core survived." "The engine still runs," Kade nodded. "Good. That means it can still open the sky fully." The soldier hesitated. "Sir, the readings show something strange. The core's energy is spreading across the surface. It's changing the ground outside." Kade frowned. "Changing how?" "Like it's growing, breathing." Kade stood silent. His thoughts returned to the voice from the core, the one that warned of alien origin. He had thought it was a lie, another trick of the dome's creators. But what if it wasn't? What if the power he unleashed was not human at all? Back at command, Mara was monitoring the readings. Her screen flickered with energy waves pulsing through the planet's crust. "Commander," she said, her voice tense, "you need to see this." Reid stepped closer. "What am I looking at?" "The core's energy isn't stabilizing. It's expanding, like it's alive. It's not rebuilding the dome. It's building something else." Reid's jaw tightened. "Can we shut it down?" "Maybe, but we'd have to reach the central chamber again," he sighed. "That's in Outlander territory now. Then we'll have to go through them," she said. Reid turned toward the cracked window, watching the smoke drift through the air. "I was afraid you'd say that." Night fell over the ruins. Lightning flickered in the distance, illuminating the twisted remains of the dome. Reid led a small strike team through the outer sectors. The city was silent except for the sound of their boots splashing through puddles. "We used to live here," Mara said softly. "People had homes. Children played in these streets," Reid replied, "and we let fear turn it into a cage." They reached the border zone, where the dome's light had completely failed. The streets ahead were covered with strange blue veins, spreading from the core's direction. They pulsed faintly like living tissue. "What is that?" One of the soldiers whispered. "Whatever it is," Reid said, "don't touch it." Suddenly a loud crack echoed through the air. A drone crashed nearby, its shell burned and twisted. From the shadows, Outlander troops appeared, weapons drawn. At their center stood Kade. He stepped forward slowly, lowering his helmet. "I told you the world could be free, brother." Reid raised his rifle. "You freed something else instead." Kade's eyes glowed faintly blue, the same color as the core's light. "Maybe this is evolution. Maybe we were meant to become something more." "That's not evolution," Reid said. "That's infection." The ground beneath them trembled. Blue cracks widened, splitting the concrete. From below, tendrils of light burst upward like vines made of energy. The soldiers stumbled back as one of the glowing vines wrapped around a fallen drone and absorbed it completely. Mara shouted, "The core's energy is alive! It's feeding." Kade looked down at the glowing ground beneath his feet. "It's not destroying, it's creating. Can't you see? The world is waking up." Reid stepped closer. "It's not the world, Kade. It's something that's using us. The core wasn't built to protect humanity. It was built to contain whatever this is." For a long moment, the brothers stared at each other, the truth between them sharp as a blade. Then Kade said quietly, "I can't stop now." Reid's voice broke. "Then I'll have to stop you." A violent clash erupted. Energy blasts lit the night as both sides fought across the cracked street. Mara and her team covered Reid as he charged forward. The brothers met in the center, blades sparking, the light of the core flickering on their faces. "You can't win," Kade shouted, pushing Reid back. "The core has already changed me. I feel it inside. It's calling to me." Reid struck hard, disarming him. "Then you've already lost." Kade fell to one knee, breathing heavily. The veins of light pulsed faster beneath him. Reid pointed his weapon at the ground. "This ends here." Mara called out, "Commander, the energy is surging. We have to go now." Reid hesitated. He looked at his brother one last time. "I'm sorry, Kade." He fired into the ground. The light burst upward, swallowing everything in a blinding wave. Hours later, Reid woke up in the ruins. The city was quiet again. The glowing veins had vanished. The core's energy had gone still. Mara was beside him, barely conscious. "Is it over?" Reid looked toward the horizon. Through the cracks of the dome, he saw the faintest hint of sunrise. "Real sunlight," he whispered. "No, it's only beginning." Because far in the distance, beyond the dome's remains, the ground shimmered with faint blue light, spreading outward across the world. The morning after the battle was unlike any the dome had ever known. Real sunlight filtered through the cracks, golden and warm, touching the ruins for the first time in centuries. Birds from the outside, mutated but alive, flew across the broken horizon. Humanity had finally seen the real sky, but with that light came fear. Commander Reid stood near the shattered core chamber. The once pulsing sphere now sat silent, its surface covered with strange blue scars that faintly glowed like breathing veins. Around him, the survivors worked to rebuild communication towers using broken drones and scrap metal. The air smelled of smoke, rain, and something new, something alien. Lieutenant Mara approached, carrying a cracked datapad. "Commander, we have a problem. The core may be quiet, but its signal isn't gone. It's spreading beyond the dome. Every hour it moves farther, north, south, everywhere." Reid turned to her, his voice calm but heavy. "How far?" She hesitated. "It's reached the outer storm line. If it keeps going, it'll touch the rest of the planet within a week." Reid looked at the horizon where the dome ended. The clouds there were swirling, glowing faintly blue. "Then it wasn't just protecting us," he said. "It was holding something back. Far below the ruins, in what remained of the tunnels, Kade was alive. His armor was cracked open, his eyes dim, but glowing faintly with the same blue light that pulsed in the core. He crawled through the darkness, hearing whispers in his mind. "You opened the sky. Now we can rise." He pressed his hands to his head. "No, I did this for freedom, not for you," the voice answered, smooth and cold. "You are freedom. You bar our vessel." When Kade looked down at his hands, he saw blue lines moving under his skin. The core had changed him. He was no longer fully human. At the surface, the first rays of true dawn reached the command center. People were gathered around fires, some crying, some laughing, all looking up at the open sky. Children ran barefoot in the mud, their faces bright with wonder. For a moment there was peace, but then a low hum filled the air. The ground vibrated. Mara's datapad began flashing red. "Commander, incoming energy spike, stronger than before." Reid grabbed his rifle and looked out toward the city's edge. From beyond the broken dome, blue lightning streaked across the sky, forming a storm unlike any before. Inside the storm, massive shapes began to move, towering silhouettes walking through the light. Mara whispered, "Is that the core's energy?" Reid's heart pounded. "No, it's what the core was holding back." The storm broke open. From the light stepped creatures made of living energy, tall and shimmering, their forms shifting like liquid metal and flame. Their eyes glowed white, and their voices echoed through the air without sound. One of them spoke, its voice vibrating through every frequency at once. "We are the architects. The sky was our gift. The dome was our cage. You have freed us." Reid raised his weapon, though he knew it would do nothing. "We didn't mean to free anything. We just wanted to survive." "You survived because of us," the being replied. "You lived under our protection, though you never knew it. The dome was never yours. It was ours." Mara stepped forward. "If that's true, why are you here now?" The creature's glowing head tilted slightly. "Because your kind has opened the way. The balance must be restored." Reid clenched his fists. "We won't be caged again." The beings moved closer, their light washing over the ruins. The survivors screamed as energy waves surged through the ground, tearing apart the metal streets. Reid shouted, "Everyone fall back!" To the inner tunnels. They ran as the sky lit up with blue fire. Buildings collapsed, drones exploded mid-air. The world trembled under the return of the architects. Deep below, Kade felt the call grow stronger. The core's power burned inside him, but he could still think, still choose. He heard the voices calling him to join them, but he also heard his brother's last words echo in his mind. "Then I'll have to stop you." Kade stood, his hands glowing with energy. Not this time. He climbed toward the surface, following the path of light. When he reached the open ground, he saw the architects towering above humanity, like gods reborn. He looked at Reid, who was standing on the command platform, trying to rally the last of the soldiers. Their eyes met across the chaos. No words were needed. Kade turned toward the core, raised his hands, and released all the energy within him. A blinding wave erupted, brighter than the sun. The architects turned their heads in shock. The core responded to him, recognizing its own creation. The blue veins across the city glowed once more, but this time they didn't spread. They collapsed inward, sealing the storm, pulling the energy back into the core. Kade's body disintegrated in the light. He gave everything to close the rift. Then silence. Hours later, the sky was calm again. The storm was gone. The architects had vanished. The core was dead, truly dead this time. Reid stood in the quiet dawn, his face pale but peaceful. Mara stood beside him, looking toward the horizon, where sunlight painted the clouds pink and gold. "He saved us," she said softly. Reid nodded. "He saved everyone." They stood there as the survivors began to rebuild, not under a dome this time, but under the open sky. Humanity had finally stepped beyond its cage. Reid looked up at the rising sun. "We spent centuries hiding from the world," he said. "Now for the first time we'll live in it." Mara smiled faintly. "Do you think the world will forgive us for what we did?" Reid answered quietly, "It already has. Look." A small bird landed near their feet, spreading its wings in the sunlight. The war was over. The sky had opened. Humanity was free, but far beyond the horizon, deep under the ground, a faint blue glow flickered once more. Something was still alive.